I'm Sharon with Olive Street Designs and welcome to my next project, and it's one of 7. Have you ever done a full bedroom suite of all 7 pieces? Well, the long dresser is up next, and it's a bit overwhelming to do all the pieces at once, so I do put them into different sections and try to get some of them that are similar, because not all these pieces are the same. They all pose different challenges and different things to them. They're made from different wood. So I'm going to tackle them one at a time. You'll see several videos where we end up in the same place, but the journey there is very different with each piece. You can see this is lifting right away with this stripper. I really like this stripper. I've messed around with others in the past, and now this is my go-to, and I use it every time because you can see what it does. It just takes that right off of there. So once I get things lifted off pretty well, I can scrape it off of there with the putty knife. And some areas that aren't coming off, it's because I didn't have it on there thick enough. Sometimes you think you've got a whole bunch on there and then it dries right out and you're like, whoops, should have put some more. And I use the detail carbide scraper just to get into all those little edges. But now I'm using lacquer thinner. You can use acetone here too. They're very similar for this. And I'm just going around to those areas that were still left on there. And I could have just sanded those off, but I wanted to just kind of get a clean slate before I start sanding. So I'm using the lacquer thinner to just clean everything off. And there we are. And now I'm starting with 120 grit. This is a sanding net. This could definitely just be sandpaper because I'm not really stripping anymore. Now this is going very slow in real life, but I'm speeding this up so much faster. So I'm taking my time to really sand everything down. I want to get every bit of that finish off. These are contour sanding blocks, and I'm using them just to get into all those little grooves. And now I'm starting to go through my grits again to get all the way up to where I'm going to be at 220 because I am staining. But isn't that beautiful? Oh, I just love a good solid wood top. All right, time for some pre-stain conditioner. This is oil-based. Make sure you get the right pre-stain conditioner for the stain that you'll be using. And I'm going to be doing oil-based stains today. And you just put a thin layer on. It doesn't take a lot. Briar Smoke is my stain. This was chosen by the client. She had seen another piece that I had recently done. And it was like, oh, that color is beautiful. That's exactly what I want. Now you can see what the oil did, the pre-stain conditioner did. It completely brought out all of the natural tannins in this wood, and it is very, very red. So this Briar Smoke, I'm hoping, is going to be toning everything down to get to the color that my client really wants. And once I get everything on there, I'm going to wipe it back. And then I'm going to let that dry for a while. And once I did that, I decided, nope. That wasn't quite the right color, so I went in with a little gel stain in hickory. I didn't film that. After that sat overnight, I am now sealing everything with shellac. And this coat isn't pretty, but what it does is it's just sealing everything. Now I'm transitioning from oil to water, so oil-based stains to water-based top coats. And if you don't seal it with shellac, you can still do it. You just have to let it sit for about 72 hours. And I didn't really have that much time, so I can go ahead and seal it with shellac after 24 hours and then move on. So I sanded everything down very lightly, and now I'm just getting it all dusted because top coats are about to begin. And I say top coats because I will be doing many. Now this is just my regular top coat. I don't have it tinted or anything. It's clear. And I'll do a coat and then I'll sand it. And then I'm going to, and you can see I'm using a sanding sponge there and giving it a good sanding because now I've got a couple coats of things on here and I want this to be smooth. So I really do sand it. Of course, a damp microfiber towel to get all of that dust back off of there again. That works so well. And then another layer of top coat. Now I'm going to repeat this 5 times. As you know, I like my pieces to be pretty, but I also like them to be very durable. So I spend the time to put all these coats on there. After those all dried, it's time to take this hardware off. And this took me forever because of these. If you've watched many of my videos, I always complain about those, and I apologize, but they just get me every time because you think they're Phillips and they're not. But this hardware, if we were not reusing it, I'd have to do a lot of repairs because it makes big dents and of course all the colors, but it's beautiful hardware and I'm so happy that my client decided to reuse it. Now I needed to get everything cleaned up because behind that hardware was really dirty, as it usually is. Nobody cleans behind the hardware. And once that all dried, now I can sand everything, and the body of this is getting painted. So I'm just scuff sanding everything. Now I have a sanding pad on there that's about a medium grit, so it'll give me 120 or so. And with the SurfPrep, I think SurfPrep was made for French Provincial because it gets in all of these curves and rounded areas, and it just makes my life so much easier. I have some drawers that are rubbing. Now you may hear me sometimes say I had to adjust my drawers, and there's no like little adjustment that you make, but what you do is you sand them. And I'm using a very rough sanding net to make some room. So I just sanded that down until they went, I'm fitting them back and forth and make sure they go in smooth, and then I went in with the sanding pad to smooth everything back out. Some glazing and spot putty to fill in some dents and dings. Over the years, these just get a few. I've got a little crack back here, nothing structural, but just a piece of wood that has cracked, probably just from moving it around. So I took my syringe with a needle on it, injected some glue, and then I'll just be clamping that. That should be good to go once that glue dries, and here we are. Not looking real pretty right now, but we're headed there. Some Bondo. The blue stuff is the hardener. So you put the Bondo out, you add the hardener, and you got about, I don't know, a couple minutes to get it where you want it, and then about 15 minutes it'll be hard and you can sand it. There we go. I just had a chunk of the foot that was missing there. And now I am ready to get this all taped off. I've spent so much time on the top of this that I definitely do not want any paint on it. And I'm also going to tape my dovetails. These dovetails are gorgeous. I do not want any paint on there. Setting up my spray tent. This is a really big piece, so I just needed some extra room. And here we go with primer. A good solid coat of primer, because we are going very light. So going all the way from the dark wood all the way to white is kind of a stretch for me, or I feel it is for the paint anyway. So I use gray primer, even under white paint. You can see I'm painting the tops of the drawers using a piece of cardboard just to block the paint. There you go, is another view of it. When I have big drawers like this, I kind of use that technique because then I don't have to go back and do everything by hand. I gave everything a quick sanding and dusted it off, and here we go with paint. The beautiful creamy Swiss coffee. I love this color. Of course, most of us have our doors and trim painted in this color, but it's a beautiful furniture color, and I love it for this piece. And then just touching up a few of the areas by hand, but second coat of paint, and I got an area that dripped. So it happens to me. You just let that dry and then sand it and go back and touch that up. Don't mess with it. If you see a drip when you're painting, leave it. All right, I've done 3 coats of white paint, and this is top coat. And you can see I'm kind of leaning from the side because it's hard to see top coat over white paint. So I'm looking at the reflection while I was painting. Okay, it's time for the reveal. She's gorgeous. But I did get some paint on it. You can probably barely see it, but it was just a little bit of overspray, and I used some rubbing alcohol. And she's beautiful. Okay, time to take this off the dovetails, and you can see the side of my drawer also has a little bit of overspray on it. Rubbing alcohol to the rescue once again. Now you can use acetone and things, but sometimes these drawers have a finish on them, and if you start using acetone and lacquer thinner on the side, sometimes it strips it right off. But you can definitely do that. Alcohol is just a little bit kinder. And I'm also top coating. I do get lots of questions about, do you go back and top coat the tops of the drawers? I do. I just don't always film it. So I filmed it there so you could see, putting all the hardware back on. Now it's time to condition everything. The sides of the drawers, of course, I'd used alcohol on them, but the insides also, they were all very, very dry. So put the wood conditioner in there because these drawers are just beautiful. A little overspray underneath, so I'm cleaning that up. And then just continuing to condition everything. No way am I lining those. Too pretty. Let's take a look back at where we started. And here we are now. This is what I call modern farmhouse. Just a gorgeous update to these pieces. And the way that we're doing these and bringing them all together with a cohesive look and color is just going to make this bedroom beautiful. So be sure to follow along to watch the entire set come together.